Welcome, you're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. The Prime Minister, in an address to the nation, spoke today about the decision of the scrapping of Article 370 and 35A and outlined his vision for the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir. The message is one of a healing touch. The tone was conciliatory and the ambition is to change the lives of the people of the former state of Jammu and Kashmir and now the Union territories of J&K and Ladakh. But will the message reach its intended target audience? Speaking to me on this evening, our host of experts, I'm joined by Amitabh Tiwari, co-founder of Loud ST, senior journalist Madhavan Narayanan, Tejas Mehta, political expert, and I'm joined as well by Tilak Deveshwar, who's a former secretary in the Government of India. I'm also speaking this evening with Sushant Sareen. But before we come to all of my guests, let's just play out some parts of Prime Minister Modi's speech this evening.
नई व्यवस्था में केंद्र सरकार की ये प्राथमिकता रहेगी कि राज्य के कर्मचारियों को, जिसमें जम्मू कश्मीर की पुलिस भी शामिल है, उन सबको दूसरे केंद्र शासित प्रदेश के कर्मचारियों और वहां की पुलिस के बराबर की सुविधाएं मिले। अभी केंद्र शासित प्रदेशों में अनेक ऐसी वित्तीय सुविधाएं जैसे एलटीसी, हाउस रेंट अलाउंस, बच्चों की शिक्षा के लिए एजुकेशन अलाउंस, हेल्थ स्कीम जैसी अनेक सुविधाएं दी जाती हैं, जिनमें से अधिकांश जम्मू कश्मीर के कर्मचारियों को, पुलिस परिवारों को नहीं मिलती हैं। ऐसी सुविधाओं का तत्काल रिव्यू कराकर जल्द ही जम्मू कश्मीर के कर्मचारियों को, पुलिसों को, उनके परिवारजनों को ये सुविधाएं मुहैया कराई जाएगी।
All right, let's go to all of our panelists and just get a sense of what they make of the conversation that we've seen today. Let me start with you, Mr. Deveshwar, on what is the primary message that came out of it. Of course, it's conciliatory, it's a healing touch. There were wishes made for Eid. There was, a point made that we will ensure that there is a happy and peaceful Eid celebration in Jammu and Kashmir. The critics will ask that can the people who this is supposed to be for actually listen to this amidst a communication lockdown in the valley?
For me, I think it was extremely comprehensive. The thing that came across was that it was a very comprehensive speech. And I would break it up into three parts. A, he posed the question that what is Article 370 given the people of Kashmir? He elaborated that. He then said what under a union territory status are the new developments that will take place in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, what the benefits people will derive, the future, and also the emotional appeal of the rest of the country and their concern for the people of Jammu and Kashmir and of Ladakh. So I think these were the three parts of the speech as far as I was concerned. Extremely comprehensive. I think he covered all the, checked all the boxes, whatever needed to be said about development, about corruption, about terrorism. And in fact, in the entire speech, Pakistan was mentioned just once, and that also in passing, which I thought was an excellent thing because it is an internal matter of India and the whole focus should be internal. And one other point, if you allow me to make, a lot of emphasis on Ladakh. And the primacy which we have given in our conversations always to the valley and to the Kashmir, that was far less. It was J&K as a whole and Ladakh as a whole that was dominating in his speech.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a structured, separate section of what could be done in Ladakh. But let me just come to the overall message and let me come to Tejas Mehta on what you thought the primary points of the message is. It was definitely a more conciliatory tone. There was an attempt to reach out. There was also an attempt to outline some kind of specifics of what this move will mean in terms of developmental programs. I mean, he spoke about using digital technology, he spoke about BPOs, he spoke about IITs, AIMS, and all of those things. Do you think that there is the space for a positive response right now in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh to these messages?
Well, first of all, to the question you were asking in the previous panelist, you did mention about communication.
Yeah.
Are the people of Jammu and Kashmir watching, or did they watch it, did they hear the Prime Minister speak or not? From what I know, I do believe they have watched, because most people there, though the cable networks have been cut off, most people in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Srinagar, do have DTH, so they were able to watch what the Prime Minister really said. So that's a good thing, I would hope, because the direct messaging would go down to the people of Kashmir itself, which is the prime concern at this point of time. Now, I think there were three areas of focus which the Prime Minister was addressing to. First, the people of Kashmir and Jammu and Ladakh. Second, he was addressing to the nation as such, and third, I think, to the international community, because there's already been some sort of criticism coming from some quarters of the world where they are alleging that, of course, that this has been, India has almost bullied Kashmir into doing this. So I think there was somewhere that the Prime Minister was addressing the international community, saying that, look here, even if 370 goes, we are actually bringing in more democracy. Elections will be held, the politicians will emerge from the soil of Kashmir itself.
Yeah.
They will elect their own chief minister. So nothing is going to, change in that sense. The second, I think, important point was to the people of Kashmir. I think the most important aspect of the entire speech, where he was reaching out, saying that, look here, I will bring in development. I am your, in a sense, the messiah of hope for you, because I will do as I have promised. And of course, a slew of things he has said, from sports academies, from government, filling in government jobs at the center, at the state, bringing in education, asking the private sector to come in, urging Indians to go and tour Kashmir and increase tourism there, urging Ladakhis to use their own natural resources like herbs and plants for their to export in the country itself. So I think his entire focus was largely on development.
Yeah.
One important point I found, which he talked about, the secessionist Algawad, and that I think was important, because he said it is the Kashmiris who have fought in the past against this, and they will themselves fight in the future too against any such sentiment. And he said only a handful of people. What I thought was missing was the concern in the minds of the people about when does life turn to normalcy.
Yeah.
I think he only mentioned it in one line, saying that very soon things will return to
He
normal.
actually said, "Dheere,
Another
dheere."
important point
Tejas,
which
he
he did
actually
mention,
said,
very
"Dheere, dheere."
critical for Kashmir,
Yeah.
is this whole idea of statehood.
Yeah.
I think it was important.
Yeah, and no, actually,
Dheere dheere, yeah, but
he
dheere
said
dheere
dheere
is,
dheere
I
cheezein
mean,
samanya
in
hongi.
a state where Eid is coming, dheere dheere doesn't mean much.
Yeah, no, so he did justify.
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't mean much, especially when Eid is there,
Yeah.
when you have not been able to touch with.
Yeah, so let me get Sushant in on this point. All the intentions seem good, the messaging seems clear, but does it have to be sort of a calibrated move, where on the one hand you bring in all of this development, and on the other hand you also sort of loosen the hold on the kind of blockade, the kind of army presence there, communication, restrictions of movement? Do both of these things need to go together for this to actually have an impact?
Look, a couple of things. Number one, I think the very fact that he acknowledged that there was this problem, this transient problem which was there, I think that was a good thing to do, because at least he acknowledged that there is this problem. And then he's also indicated that this is not going to stay for very long, and his thing that they'll be able to celebrate Eid properly seems to indicate that whatever restrictions or whatever lockdown there is going to be lifted over the next 1 or 2 days. Many people are saying that probably tomorrow a lot of the restrictions will be lifted, and that is when really we will see how well this particular speech has played out in the valley, because really the problem is going to be in the valley, I think there's no restiveness in either Jammu or in Ladakh. In fact, there are celebrations out there. The second thing which is extremely important is, at least to my mind, that there was no triumphalism in this speech, and the fact that there was no political grandstanding. He wasn't reaching out to his core constituency in rest of India. He was reaching out to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and I think that was a very good touch. He could have indulged in this kind of chest thumping that look, I have done something, and he didn't do it, and that was very good. Along with it, the way he appreciated the sacrifices of the people from Jammu and Kashmir to keep the Indian Union together. He has mentioned a few people, and he has mentioned the sacrifices of the Jammu and Kashmir police, which very often people ignore, and in their newfound bigotry in rest of the country, when they speak all sorts of unspeakable things, they don't realize that it's people from the Jammu and Kashmir police, most of them who are Muslims, who have been in the vanguard of India's fight against terrorism and separatism in Jammu and Kashmir. And I think acknowledging that is extremely important. And the fact that he not only acknowledges that, but I think he's also giving that hint to some of these motor mouths, including some of the people from his own party. We have that clip of that stupid MLA from UP who makes loose remarks. I think at this point in time, it is extremely important for everybody to show a fair degree of sensitiveness and also empathy for the people in Kashmir. This kind of chest thumping needs to be avoided.
So well
it
said.
is good to be jubilant. It is good to celebrate what has happened, but
that's very well said, and perhaps there could have been more on that. But I'm going to take from the important point that you made to Madhavan, that who was the target audience for this? Was it the rest of India or the typical BJP supporter, voter? Perhaps not really, because then there may have been more of a mention and bashing of the Abdullahs and the Muftis, more about Pakistan, there was no mention of, the opposition or the Congress at all, beyond a point, just saying that, okay, who voted for what, let's move on. This seemed clearly aimed at the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And the important point that he said, that this is not going to be a union territory forever. We want to move it to statehood. There will be free and fair elections. Do you think, at least on paper, he ticked the right boxes? Of course, we don't know what will eventually happen.
I think, Tamanna, we have to be a little nuanced in this. First of all, even union territories have elections, so he didn't necessarily talk about it being a state again.
No, he did.
He's talking about elections and
he
being
did.
given
He's specific.
representation.
He did.
Okay,
He did.
meaning that's long term.
Yeah, eventually.
But the way things are, that ain't going to happen anytime soon.
Yes.
But anyway, that's a minor point compared to the other facts that you mentioned. And I would say that I will say there is a certain political position taken by Mr. Modi on this, which is, as I have said earlier, is about addressing a demographic transition in Jammu and Kashmir, and hoping that the BJP and the Republic of India will find allies in a new generation of Kashmiris, and therefore he is subtly targeting the political fiefdoms or duopolies of the National Conference or the People's Democratic Party, without making it explicit. He's making it subtle, and he's also co-opting the government machinery, particularly the J&K police as well as J&K administration, by giving them both recognition as well as incentives, including allowances in the process. So he's trying to create a new political set of equations in Kashmir, but using what I call a transition from the politics of Kashmiriyat to a politics of Vikas. He wants to make the Vikas plank cross the Banihal tunnel and enter the valley, because for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, Kashmiriyat has been the motive as some kind of a buffer between Hindustaniyat and Islamiyat, as I call it, and in a syncretic composite way. And he wants to push in the element of development in the belief that the new generation of youngsters, there is an urge to perform and aspire, and he wants to tap into it. Having said that, I mean, there are lots of ifs and buts, as I've said earlier, but this is what he's attempting.
Yeah.
But as Sushant Sareen rightly said, if there are motor mouths in his party, and if there are people who sound like Islamophobes in his party or feudal in his party and trivialize this whole thing about marrying girls and things like that, then Mr. Modi has to give a tougher address to his own party men. I will be watching out what he tells his party cadres, because it's one thing to address the Kashmiri people. You can't win elections in Kashmir in Kanpur and Unnao, you know. There is a completely different mindset and heart set to be addressed here. There is a lot of negative, you know, it's like NPA problem in banking.
I think
you can't suddenly throw some money and hope that the problem will go away.
I think they're far from winning elections right now, but I want to come to the political point you made, and just to take that forward, I want to play out a very important clip of what the Prime Minister said in his speech in terms of how the democratic process will move forward from now on in Jammu and Kashmir.
भाइयों और बहनों, हम सभी चाहते हैं कि आने वाले समय में जम्मू कश्मीर विधानसभा के चुनाव हो, नई सरकार बने, नए तेजस्वी ऊर्जावान नौजवान एमएलए बने, मंत्री बने, मुख्यमंत्री बने। मैं जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को भरोसा देता हूं कि आपको बहुत ईमानदारी के साथ पूरे पारदर्शी वातावरण में आपके अपने प्रतिनिधि चुनने का अवसर तुरंत मिलेगा।
He said that, but he also talked time and again about the recently conducted panchayat elections. He talked about putting in place new block development officers. He also talked about, as how he sees it, that the prominence of a couple of dynastic families that have dominated the elections and the politics of Jammu and Kashmir has not given an opportunity to the youth. Amitabh, I want to come to you on that. The way I see it, the longer term plan is to have a different kind of a politician in Jammu and Kashmir. And we've seen that acquisition spree to some extent, where some local leaders have now hopped on to the BJP to create political entities who are more pro the government in Delhi and will help bridge this gap. So you're trying to reset not just whether this is a state or a union territory, but also reset the way politics works in this area.
Yeah, essentially what he has tried to say is that nothing changes as of now. There will be free and fair elections. You all will elect an MLA, a cabinet and a chief minister. So the focus is on it is a temporary phenomenon and nothing much changes. He did attack Parivarwad because the dynasty issue has worked successfully for the BJP in the national context. BJP has been able to defeat Congress convincingly, and the dynasty element has been one of the key success factors. So now what Modi is trying to do is that he is trying to show that he cares for the people, which he I'm not doubting that he doesn't, and in a way broaden the social coalition which the BJP has there. BJP predominantly has its stronghold in Jammu and Ladakh. So by doing this, he is trying to expand the base or expand the presence of the party even in Kashmir. See, the focus of the speech was on development, and with this he is trying to attract the youth of the state. The youth of the country in the Lok Sabha elections which we have gone recently have voted cutting across caste lines and class lines and even religion. So the focus there is to tap the youth who, or the aspirational youth who want better jobs, better lifestyle, better infrastructure, and who get sold to this story and then also accept BJP as an alternative and as a viable alternative in the state, which will bring development not only to Kashmir but also to other parts of the country, other parts of the state.
to take this discussion to a very important point. Most of the speech has been focused on improving the development parameters in Jammu and Kashmir. So we pulled up some of the data and we'll show it to you. About the GDP of the state vis-a-vis other states in India, the per capita income vis-a-vis other states in India, the doctor to population ratio, the infant mortality ratio, the unemployment rates, and that data will be up soon. Broadly speaking, the state of Jammu and Kashmir on a lot of parameters does better than a lot of states in India. It actually does better as of now. I'm not saying that there is no need for development there, you need development everywhere. But the fact is there going to be a change in the perception of development? Let me come to Tejas Mehta on this very important point. The unemployment figures are actually better in Jammu and Kashmir than some of the states in India. And yet there is this narrative that because of high unemployment, you have all of this anger and the youth become stone pelters, etc. So you have to bring in a perception of upping the development narrative to a much higher level and give the youth something else to be occupied with. It's a risky and a tough proposition, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. The first thing, as you mentioned, was that no one is saying Jammu and Kashmir can do much better. We all agree on that. That said, yes, I do agree with you that these, how the economy has done in Jammu and Kashmir in the last, many, I would say years, it has done pretty well. And I mean, many factors, as you pointed out, it came out in today's Times of India, I think. It has done pretty well. So, I mean, when the Prime Minister or Amit Shah do convey to, the Parliament or in his speech today, are they really saying that it was so bad that it was not even comparable to any other state in India? Well, that's of course, some way of exaggerating, because they also need to package this whole thing, I believe, in this avatar of development, of hope, of where you're giving them rights and a long set of injustices, which are of course very real vis-a-vis Section 35A. So, I mean, the real reasons, of course, for the BJP is that they fundamentally believe that this is an injustice done. Pakistan is the one which is bleeding us because of this, because of this separatism which has come into Kashmir because of 35A and because of 370, and that's the reason, I think, fundamental reason I believe the BJP wants to has been asking for decades now that this the abrogation of this particular act has to be done. So yes, they want development, yes, they want the injustices to go away, they want women to get their property rights, they want Gujjar Muslims to get whatever reservation they can manage to get, and they want everybody else to be equal in front of the law. But as I said, I think the most important thing for them is to ensure that this secessionist attitude, the separatist movement is crushed there, terrorism will be crushed there. That's the hope, I think, larger hope and larger interest. And of course, the territorial integrity of India will once again be ensured as much as the center can really do about it.
Very clever move, and I just want to take off from what Amitabh was saying. Very clever move to pinpoint the dynasties of Jammu and Kashmir, the Abdullahs and the Muftis, because it's not like they're very popular locally as well. So they are the ones who have been in power, and a lot of that has been a support from New Delhi at different times. So that space is actually ripe for new leaders to emerge. I'll come to you, Sushant, but I've got M.M. Ansari with me joining on the show. Mr. Ansari, can you hear me? Okay, let me get his audio fixed and I'll come to him. Yes, Sushant, you wanted to come in on the point of development and the development parameters. Again, I'm contextualizing this, saying we're not saying everything is great in Jammu and Kashmir. Of course, it can be better. It is also a smaller population, which makes some of those statistics look better. So that is one factor. But is the development Vikas pitch? It's the same formula. It's Vikas on one end and the terrible dynasty on the other. It's a formula that has worked for the BJP. Will it work in Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, I don't know whether it will work in Jammu and Kashmir, but I think there has been a certain amount of angst against the two dynasties in Jammu and Kashmir. But let us not make any mistake about it. They retain their pockets of support, and those are not to be taken lightly. And I think one thing which the government, or at least the ruling party in the centre, one thing which they really need to eschew is to try and do political engineering and try and manufacture or create a new leadership. I am all for a new leadership emerging in an organic way from within the state, whether it's from BJP or some other party, I don't care much for that. But you know, this thing that we will manufacture a new leadership which has been done from the 50s, 60s, 70s, I think that's a bad idea, and the sooner we get rid of it, the better. On the development thing, Tamanna, I think it's very important to point out that you know, statistics, and since you deal with economics much more than I do nowadays, statistics often hide many things. So, for example, you can quote whatever growth figures and all that you want to quote, but you ask any economist and what they will tell you is that for example, in Jammu and Kashmir, given the kind of central transfers which take place into that state, the grants in aid which go into that state, the fact that nobody really pays any income tax or any of the other taxes, for many years altogether, I don't know if the situation has improved much today, electricity bills were not paid, so it was virtual anarchy. So, but given the kind of funds which are pumped into that state, year after year, have we got the bang for the buck? And I don't think so. Secondly, I think we make this mistake that you know, the personal prosperity is not, and a lot of it because Jammu and Kashmir is one state which I think maximum GDP is generated from government employment. So employment, it's government employment which is creating GDP. It is not industry, it is not tourism, it is none of the other things.
Sushant, I just want to come in. I just want to come in 1 second.
Of this whole
on this
equation.
On this aid.
No, I just want to add this one thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to add just one sentence, Tamanna. Just one sentence. The travesty of this whole thing is that, you know, we often make this connection between unemployment and militancy. In Jammu and Kashmir, actually militancy has very often been promoted by people who are in government employment. So it's been a crazy kind of a system which is there, which is why the UT things make sense, that you will have to cleanse the administration from many of these fellows so that you can actually give better governance to the people and you can get rid of agent provocators who are part of the government in that new union.
So a couple of things, an important point there that you made, Sushant, that maybe it's not about unemployment and, you know, the anger that you see on the streets. I'm not going into whether it's justified or not. It's there, it's been there for the last 70 years. The idea is to change people's hearts and minds. Will throwing money at it help? You yourself said that there's huge amount of aid. Now, I don't know what figures you're referring to and what that aid goes into. So we'll have to break that down and then see, because like every other state, Jammu and Kashmir has had its part of central taxes that has also been going in there. I get the point about private sector coming in, and he did appeal to private sector. But let me come to M.M. Ansari. Mr. Ansari, I'm keen to know your views this evening because you've tracked this state for so many years. You've been an interlocutor as part of a previous government and reached out to the people. At the very outset, would you say that this has been the strongest outreach attempt from the very top from the Modi government so far? Whatever happens next, he's definitely made a big attempt today.
Well, I don't know whether whatever the Prime Minister has said, whatever he was talking as if he was addressing any election meeting, he was messaging. But the fact that there is a connectivity problem in the Jammu and Kashmir, you know, the internet is down, there is no telephone connection. I don't know really what arrangement was made to make sure that the people know what Prime Minister Modi was talking about. And he did talk about the youth involvement in development activities and also the panchayat's role. But let me take one by one. You know, no one has reached out to the youth and tried to know that what ails them, you know, what are the problems that they are facing. Why is it that they are saying that hum kya chahte hain, hum azadi. So then why are they saying so? There must be some reason why they are talking about it. Nobody has reached them, nobody has reached even the leaders who represent them, whether they are off stream or the mainstream political leaders. You know, much of the discussion, much of the talk which the Prime Minister gave was, he was talking about development, whereas the youth there, they say that look, development is not our problem. Our problem is that the manner in which the state has been dealt with. For example, it has been realized that it is a conflict zone and there has been problem with Pakistan. There is insurgency, there is militancy, and there are reasons, you know, because there is internal uprising, there is also, you know, support from the outside. So no one is talking that yes, there is a problem in Kashmir and that is one of the conflict zones, you know, and which requires to be dealt with. And there has been problems in the past. For example, I may mention that India and Pakistan have had many other issues and they were resolved through the international mediation. I may mention that it was Indus Water Treaty mediated by World Bank. It was Run of Kutch, it was mediated by the Harold Wilson, the Prime Minister of the UK, and then in Tashkent mediated in
Come to your point, please, Mr. Ansari. Yes.
65 war. And when we talk of, everybody says that it is an internal matter. No, let me complete Tamanna 1 second. If it is entirely an internal matter, then why is it that the UN observers are sitting on both the sides to watch, you know, that there are no skirmishes around the POK? So we must realize, yes, J&K is an integral part of India, but at the same time it has an international dimension which need to be tackled with. Now I may also mention to you that at this point in time, you know, as per Shimla agreement, we say that it is a bilateral issue which is to be resolved.
But Mr. Ansari, Mr. Ansari, if I may,
now
sir.
what happens? Now if it is an internal matter, then the Shimla agreement is.
But you know, I understand what you're saying, and you're going back to the history and the much repeated and touted history of this entire issue, which is important. But the fact is that today a big step has been taken, and there has been an attempt to make an outreach. There is no chance that the government of the day is going to go back on all of that and go back to the Shimla agreement, etc., etc.
You know,
my question to you simply is,
taken without the consultation of the stakeholders.
So my question to you is, from now here on,
were involved by Mr. Advani and by Vajpayee, but today those stakeholders have now been ignored.
So let me come to Mr. Deveshir.
Azad, he tried to reach out there because he is a
Mr.
former
Tilak,
chief minister and also
let me come to Mr. Tilak on that point.
He was also
no matter how
sent
much
back.
you reach out, okay, Mr. Tilak, let me come to that point. How much ever you reach out to people, the fact that they were not taken into confidence and this happened all of a sudden, would that thwart any attempts of applying balm later?
You know, I don't buy this argument at all that they were done all of a sudden and people are not aware of it. It's been part of the BJP manifesto for the last 2 elections and it's been there since the 1950s. That they will do away with Article 370. Everybody was aware of it. I don't see why people think that it was done surreptitiously or out of the blue. Not at all. In fact, the main thrust that Prime Minister was making, I don't know, you know what the other panelists was trying to say. The fact of the matter is the main thrust, what the Prime Minister said was that it is because of Article 370 that people were kept in the dark. He specifically mentions, you know, things like right to education, women's disempowerment, Dalits being kept out, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, the JK police, the government employees, all of them were deprived of the benefits which the rest of the country was getting. And that is a fundamental issue. And because of Article 370, and then he poses the question, what is 370 given Jammu and Kashmir? It's given them corruption, it's given them terrorism, it's given them dynastic rule. And all these three things are now going to get removed. And because of proper administration and governance, the benefits which are enjoyed in the rest of the country are going to flow to J&K. And this is the crucial thing.
Okay.
And his message was very, very specific. The question you asked earlier, it was addressed to women, it was addressed to youth,
Yeah.
it was addressed to the panchayats,
Yeah.
it was addressed to the block developmental officials, to J&K police, to the state government employees.
so-
All of them have listened and absorbed this message. of what
I
the Prime
don't
Minister
know.
was
I
trying to
don't
say.
know if all of them have
I mean,
listened
that's a
and
very
absorbed the
important
message.
point. You know, to go on talking about Pakistan and similar agreement.
Yeah, I don't know if all of them have absorbed and listened to the message. Tejas Sharma in the beginning of this show said that he believes that a lot
Tamanna,
of
can I
people
make
have
a
heard it.
one-finger intervention?
Come in, Sushant. Come in, Sushant. You know, just about 370. Since we're going back to 370, though now it's done and dusted and it's pretty much over. It was irrelevant either way. It had been diluted to the point where the local government could add on any laws that it needed to. So it wasn't doing anything much for the people who wanted it or for those who want it gone. It's more of a symbol that has been held up, that now things have changed and Jammu and Kashmir is truly a part of India. Yes, Sushant, you want to come in on that point?
No, I just wanted to challenge what Mr. Ansari was saying, that you know, this rhetorical question which he was asking, how is it an internal matter? There are UN observers out there. Well, there are UN observers in Lebanon, but you know, if they are taking care of a problem inside Lebanon, anything which Lebanon does inside its own country or Congo does inside its own country, it's an internal matter. If the UN peacekeepers out there, that does not make it an external problem. Now, in India's case, the UN peacekeepers are there, observers are there to ensure the peace between, or to observe the peace between India and Pakistan and illegal occupation. What we do inside Indian territory is an internal matter. Now, for him to play this card, which you know the Congress party has been playing, I think it's rather bizarre. Either he doesn't understand what the issue is, or he's trying to make up something, or he's just trying to muddy waters, because it just doesn't make sense what he's saying.
Okay, let him respond. Let him respond. Look, I don't want to turn this into one of those fights. We're all coming in with our points of view. My idea of a debate like this is to give our viewers every kind of perspective and its counter. Yes, Mr. Ansari. Yes, Mr. Ansari. Yeah.
May I remind you of the Shimla Agreement, which says that while the J&K issue will be resolved bilaterally, and it further says that both the countries agree not to change the existing situation as it exists in Jammu and Kashmir. I request my panelists to look at the Shimla Agreement of 1972, where both the countries have signed.
Sir, why don't you try and understand what the document says?
Internal situation.
Okay.
I mean, the
let's
Jammu and
move
Kashmir
ahead.
physically. You see, you look at it, it is very clearly mentioned that there is a commitment from both the sides that they will not change the existing situation.
Yeah, Mr. Ansari, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that right now, in the present situation, a big change has been made. Madhavan, you want to come in on this? You want to come in on this before I move forward? Yes.
Yes, I think. I think Mr. Ansari
Tamanna,
made
I
one
must join
valid
issue
point
with him
without.
on this, because
Let's
he's
not go to
misrepresenting
Shimla.
what Shimla Agreement
Yeah,
says.
I'll come to you, Sushant. One minute.
I think no. Let me make a pertinent point here. Even if the Shimla Agreement is redundant to what we are discussing today, the fact is, as Mr. Ansari said, the conflict zone issues, because every day there is a lot of tension in Kashmir because of external forces or terrorists or whoever. But the fact is that the rest of India sees a certain kind of peace and day-to-day, quiet that Kashmir doesn't see, and that cannot be addressed purely by economic initiatives. It has to be done through some kind of a non-militarist initiatives which are neither economic nor military, and that is where the genius of development politics truly lies. Everything isn't economics, and to that extent Mr. Ansari has a valid point.
Okay, yes, Sushant, quick rebuttal before we move on from this point. I think we should move ahead from 1972, but yes, quick point, Sushant.
Quick, on Shimla Agreement, again, No, again, because he hasn't understood what Shimla. When Shimla agreement says that there will be no unilateral change, it's talking about unilateral change to change the line of control or the ceasefire line or whatever you want to call that. It was not about internal this thing, because after the Shimla agreement was signed, the Pakistanis actually changed the kind of constitutional system, whatever constitution means for the Pakistanis, in the place which is euphemistically called Azad Jammu and Kashmir, which is neither Azad nor Jammu and Kashmir.
It is not about LOC, because the LOC is monitored by the UN.
Alterations in the constitutional
it is not about LOC
inside the northern areas of Baltistan. So what is he talking about? This is an internal change we have made. So I don't know what he's cribbing about.
Okay,
he's trying to again muddy waters.
Okay, one minute. Let me go to Neerja Chaudhary, who's joined us and is waiting. Let me go on to Neerja Chaudhary, who's joined us and waiting. So because I'll come back to you, Mr. Ansari. I'll come back to you and we'll try to understand why you think the Shimla agreement is pertinent to today's discussion. Because whatever it was and whatever differences are in the realm of the conversation between India and Pakistan, which has not happened now for at least the last 4 to 5 years. And it's not going to be revisited. The world is not butting in. They've made it clear that they think this is India's internal matter. So the immediate future now is what happens inside what is today the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So in that context, let me welcome Neerja to the show. Neerja, thank you for joining us, and you've had to wait and listen, catch up with some of the discussion we've been having, but I am keen to know your initial thoughts of how successful do you think this outreach program is going to take place, and how the people of Kashmir and Jammu are going to look at it today, considering as of now they're feeling tied up because of a lack of communication. Will this even penetrate till some of that blockade is eased?
I think one thing that I get out of it is that the Prime Minister was not addressing the nation really.
Yeah.
He was addressing essentially Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, but even within that, since the people of Jammu and people of Ladakh have welcomed the abrogation of Article 370, he was essentially focusing his attention on the people of the valley. He was reaching out to them. As far as 370 is concerned, it is true, as one of the panelists said, that it has been an avowed aim of the Bharatiya Janata Party in its manifestos, and after the government won with such a huge majority, it was on the cards. And it is one of the steps they have taken. They will probably implement their entire core agenda in the second term of Narendra Modi. So it is not even 370 should not really also be viewed as an end in self per se. It's a step in a particular direction in which they want to take the country. As far as the Prime Minister tried to reach out to the people essentially of the valley, that this is our roadmap, this is the dream I want to sell to you. And I agree that 370 is not necessarily responsible for the lack of development, lack of education, though the Kashmir, the state of Jammu and Kashmir has done better on many markers, whether it's poverty, social indices, than many other states of India. And dynastic rule, corruption, if you were to take other states of India, large number of them are also afflicted with dynastic rule, huge amount of corruption. But yes, he was trying to sell particularly to the young people of Jammu and Kashmir that you can have a future with us. We are looking at a new leadership being thrown up. He talked about the Sarpanch, the Panchayat elections and the Sarpanches and the work they are doing. And I think now what kind of impact this will have, what is the, we will all like to know how the people in the state have actually reacted to his speech.
No, absolutely.
But I see it essentially as an attempt to reach out to them.
No, absolutely. I just want to play out one more clip where the Prime Minister speaks about the role he hopes to see from the private sector.
कश्मीर और लद्दाख में सभी केंद्रीय और राज्य के रिक्त पदों को भरने की प्रक्रिया शुरू की जाएगी। इससे स्थानीय नौजवानों को रोजगार के पर्याप्त अवसर उपलब्ध होंगे। साथ ही केंद्र सरकार की पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिट्स और प्राइवेट सेक्टर की बड़ी कंपनियों को भी रोजगार के नए अवसर उपलब्ध कराने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया जाएगा। इसके अलावा सेना और अर्ध सैनिक बलों द्वारा स्थानीय युवाओं की भर्ती के लिए रैलियों का आयोजन किया जाएगा। सरकार द्वारा प्रधानमंत्री स्कॉलरशिप योजना का भी विस्तार किया जाएगा ताकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा विद्यार्थियों को इसका लाभ मिल सके।
You know, development jobs is universally good politics. If it comes through, it's a dream which is universal. It works on any kind of a a population, any state, in any country. Madhavan, do you think that is the right sort of tack to reach out to the people and the youth of Jammu and Kashmir?
I think it is the best foot forward, but sorry Tamanna, but I'll have to be a little mildly cynical on this. If you look at what happened in the El Paso shootout, people, even highly paid jobs do not satisfy people enough when they feel threatened. And therefore, there is always an undercurrent of fear or anxiety even in normal competitive economies, and it adds when there is a political climate which is disturbing. It is a challenge. But having said that, the least that Mr. Modi seems to be doing is to address the issue of widespread corruption amid a demographic transition, and therefore this is the best bet that he can do. The rest of the work will lie with the bureaucracy in implementing the development schemes, and most important, let me say this with as loud a voice as possible, nothing will come to fruition if the cadres of the BJP sound at odds with the development grandstanding that the Prime Minister makes.
Yeah.
This will have to go beyond the usual cheerleaders of the BJP or the people like the NGOs or the usual slightly intellectual cheerleaders of the BJP. This requires hardball politics within the BJP in no uncertain times. If he's going to talk in affectionate tones to the Jammu and Kashmir's youths, that's most welcome. Let me see him talk tough to his own party cadres, then we will start believing him.
No, and also
all the stuff that Sushant Sareen is saying must be heard from Mr. Modi's mouth, not in soft words but in hard words.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me come to Mr. Tilak on the point that was made earlier in the show that all these promises are great, but the tough part about rolling out schemes in India and across the country, and it's not just the bureaucracy but it's the entire machine. Till it actually reaches the ground, these just become promises. Can the government afford to waste time in actually making all of these promises reach the ground level in Jammu and Kashmir? And where does the role of government servants come in over here?
You see, the cynicism that you were expressing, and what the former speaker also expressed, is probably natural the way administration has happened in J&K. But what the Prime Minister was saying, that as a union territory is directly under being supervised by the centre. So therefore the centre will have to walk the talk and make sure that whatever has been promised and the vision that the Prime Minister has unfolded is actually implemented. And of course, if it is not implemented, yes, people can have a ground. But I think a lot of cynicism which is natural or inbuilt, which has come in, needs to be dispensed with. Let's give this a fair chance.
Yeah.
Let's be optimistic and let's be hopeful that things have changed for the better in J&K, and let's not hark back to Simla agreement and this, all that history, that's over. J&K is now a part and parcel of India. You can't talk about internal, external, all that is please, is water under the bridge. Let's look at the future, let's look at it with optimism, and let's hope and that the promises and the vision that the Prime Minister has outlined will be fulfilled by the administration, who have been given a very clear-cut roadmap. Prime Minister has given assurances. He's given a commitment, whether it's about elections, whether it's about restoration of statehood, whether it is about women's empowerment, youth empowerment, tourism. He's talked about kesar and kava and herbal plants.
Yeah.
He's gone down to that kind of detail. I don't understand this kind of cynicism that is there.
No, but
I think
okay.
let's be optimistic and let's be hopeful.
Okay, Mr. Ansari, you respond to that. It's just, I just want to come in on this point of, it's, optimism is great, but to ask questions is not necessarily always cynicism. It makes sense. You have to ask, but how will all of this be done? How will it really be rolled out? With the hope that it all works out. I don't think anyone on this panel hopes things don't work out. Mr. Ansari, you want to come in on that point?
Yes, I would like to pick up only a few points which Prime Minister has mentioned.
Yeah.
One is Prime Minister's scholarship scheme which has been running for the last 9 years. Unfortunately, of these 6 years falls within the NDA regime, and not more than 2,000 scholarships are given, whereas the provision is for 5,000 per year. So there has been improper or lack of implementation of the Prime Minister's scholarship scheme. That is number one, and large part is falls under the NDA regime. Number two, there is also an UDAN, that is the employment scheme, under which 8,000 J&K youth are to be given employment. Again, in this case, not more than 1/3 of the employment has been given. Now, another point which Prime Minister also mentioned about the bringing the industry in the whole area, we had suggested in our interlocutor report that the Jammu and Kashmir should be given the same type of fiscal incentive for establishing and running industries as is given to the northeast region. That has also not been extended, even so many years have passed. Lastly, the Prime Minister also mentioned about the role of the panchayats. Unfortunately, for many years, the block development level institutions have not been established. So therefore, we have 3 tiers of the system: panchayat, the block, and the state level. Unfortunately, there is no vertical and horizontal mobility, and therefore the functionality of the panchayat system gets marred. Finally, I would also like to say that the Prime Minister also mentioned that as many as 42,000 innocent people have lost their life in this turmoil in the last several years. Unfortunately, one could have said sorry for that, but it never happened. Thank you.
Okay, some good points there. Tejas, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I just want to come in on this the larger issue of what is reality, and are we really just being cynical for the heck of being cynical? I mean, first of all, the curfew has not yet been lifted, communications have not yet started. I think the first landmark day will come when normalcy returns in all sense. That means that the government will lift all these restrictions. Then we'll get to know what's the mood on the ground, on the street. And yes, while the military is there, while the armed forces are there, and they will try to quell any sort of violence there. I mean, the dissent, will it continue, not continue? It's not going to vanish in just because Prime Minister Modi has given out this outreach today. So I think we'll have to wait and watch what happens there, what happens with Pakistan, with insurgency. And let's be real. Which investor, which film industry will want to invest when the climate is so delicate? One is not sure about the security situation. One is not sure about where our one's investment will go there. So I think it's going to be a long wait, I think. But yes, I do believe that if this is the historic decision, this is also a gigantic opportunity for the Prime Minister, because I think the BJP and the government does realize this is a big chance they have got, and if they can touch the hearts, bring in prosperity, nothing like it. But let's hold our horses at this point, I feel.
No, absolutely. There's no need for unnecessary optimism or cynicism today, which is why here on this show we like to report the facts as we see it. Today there is an outreach program. Today we've not been able to get Kashmiri voices on this panel yet. We'll have to wait and see how it goes down, and of course, everyone only hopes for the best. I want to thank all of you for joining us on the debate this evening. And, as we wrap up on India Development Debate, I want to just leave you with one very interesting quote from what the Prime Minister said in his speech today. which shows the detail to which he's willing to go and perhaps the extent to which he's willing to go to fulfill these promises to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We'll have to wait and see how well that promise is executed. Thank you for watching.
जम्मू कश्मीर के केसर का रंग हो या कहवा का स्वाद, सेब का मीठापन हो या खुबानी का रसीलापन, कश्मीरी शॉल हो या फिर कलाकृति, लद्दाख के ऑर्गेनिक प्रोडक्ट हो या हर्बल मेडिसिन, इसका प्रसार दुनिया भर में किए जाने की जरूरत है।